We're demanding an end to the shadow banning, a stop to the silencing, and a stop to the blacklisting, banishing, and canceling that you know so well. Our case will prove this censorship is unlawful, it's unconstitutional, and it's completely un-American.
Former President Donald Trump is not one to back down from a fight, and after being banned from Facebook and Twitter, he's telling big tech giants the battle is on, which brings us to story number 9 on our countdown. Trump versus big tech. 45 filed a class action lawsuit against Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube's parent company, Google, alleging unlawful censorship of him and other conservatives. Many critics, on the other hand, point out that Twitter and Facebook are private companies and they can choose who they want to perform on their platforms. But let's bring in the expert. Joining us now is Professor Emeritus at Harvard Law School, Alan Dershowitz, the author of the book, Guilty by Association. Thank you, Professor Dershowitz. Good to be on with television with you. So let's talk about the hurdles. Let's talk about the hurdles that Trump and this lawsuit has, and then we'll get to some of the positives that he may get out of this. So go ahead.
But it's not an impossibility. And the reason is this. The First Amendment was intended to keep the marketplace of ideas open to all Americans, to have the greatest diversity of points of view presented. And these big tech companies are using the First Amendment not as a shield, but as a sword to censor selectively people like Donald Trump. They allow people like Farrakhan, Hamas, and bigots of all kinds to be on that platform, but not Donald Trump, the former president, even when he was the sitting president. So there are cases both ways. There's a case called Marsh versus Alabama. That was an old case where a private company had a little town which they set up for their residents to live in. They rented them homes, etc. There were stores, but it was privately owned. And the Supreme Court held that even though it was a privately owned company town, the First Amendment applied because they were performing governmental-like functions. That's the case, and others like it, that I think Trump will rely on. The other side will rely on a case called Miami Herald, where the Miami Herald was required by statute to provide an answer by a candidate who was attacked in their editorials, and the Supreme Court in that case ruled no, the Miami Herald was completely private and it had the right to censor. So we don't know how the case will come out, but it's a very important case because for the first time it really pits freedom of speech versus the First Amendment. Freedom of speech favors Trump. Clearly, he was denied the freedom of speech. He was censored. On the other hand, the First Amendment, according to the other side, favors big tech. So we'll have to see how the court resolves it. But it's a very important case. And the radicals on the left, like Professor Lawrence Tribe, who poo-poo the case, shouldn't be listened to. This is the same Lawrence Tribe, by the way, who admired Michael Avenatti and was intrigued by the possibility that Avenatti might run for president of the United States. So if you want to think about Larry Tribe's judgment, just think about Avenatti governing us not from the White House, but from the big house.
So Alan, listen, I'm a free speecher. I'm a libertarian. I believe that private companies should be able to pick and choose who they want to service and to allow into their companies or on their platforms or in their restaurants for that matter. Except when it comes to the Section 230. Now, we've talked about Section 230 quite a bit. They get protections against antitrust. They get protections against third parties posting stuff on their platforms. I get it. So they're using the federal government and the legal system, jurisprudence, in their benefit, and that brings them out of the private sphere and puts them into the public sphere, much like a utility. Here's my question, though. Will this raise to the level of Supreme Court so that the Supremes can make a decision on this, or will it die in a lower court?
Oh, no, I think it might very well get to the Supreme Court. It might die temporarily in the lower courts. The lower court might dismiss this, or it might refuse to grant an injunction, but those are appealable, and it could get to the United States Supreme Court. Already one Justice, Thomas, has indicated he's sympathetic to this point of view. The fact that they get 230 benefit is not dispositive because, after all, Major League Baseball is also exempted from the antitrust laws, but it's not the government. It's a factor. It's a factor in combination with the other realistic fact, and that is that the three giants are a triopoly, a monopoly times three. and they essentially control a very, very large amount of the marketplace of ideas. So when you combine that with the 230 exemption, in other words, they're already being regulated a bit. So the question is, can they be regulated positively but not negatively? Again, that alone won't do it, but it's a toss-up. It's not clear to me how the case will come out. I think that Trump has an uphill fight because most of the cases are against him. As I mentioned, there's at least one case that's in his favor. But it's a good case to have brought because it will alert the American public to the fact that they are claiming the First Amendment as a way of censoring other people. Jefferson and Madison would be turning if they knew that.
It will heighten the awareness of what's actually going on. By the way, the left needs to worry about this just as much as the right does. Alan Dershowitz, always good having you on. Thank you for your time.
Hi, Emma Reckenberg here. If you like this video, there's a whole lot more to see on Newsmax TV. You can watch for free right here on our YouTube live stream and be the first one here each time our experts break down real news. Just hit that subscribe button, ring the bell icon, and stay with us on America's fastest growing cable news channel, Newsmax TV.